This case is a very disturbing one, so I just want to warn you now. It all starts when a mother calls 911 claiming she's just found her two young children hanging in the basement. She says her 8-year-old son was being bullied. He was depressed. He didn't want to live in this world anymore, but he didn't want to die alone. But almost immediately, something about her story just didn't sit right. As police dug deeper, as they began to unravel the truth, what they found painted a picture so horrific it simply sounds too disgusting to be true. But I promise you, as sick and twisted as it all is, it's all unfortunately very real. This is the horrifying case of Connor and Brinley Snyder. But before we get into the details of this case, I want to talk about a brand that I have been loving lately. With all of the endless options with online shopping these days, it can feel overwhelming to try chasing everything you need across so many different stores. Whether it's home items, clothing, everyday essentials, or well-made luxury items, Quince brings it all together, making high-quality essentials for your whole life. One destination, premium quality, and affordable prices. From lightweight 100% organic cotton sweaters, stainless steel cookware, bedding that gets softer with every wash, to 14-karat gold jewelry, Quince brings it all together in one place. And even better, everything with Quince is about half the price of what you'd find with similar brands. By working directly with top-tier manufacturers and cutting out the middleman, Quince can bring you exceptional quality without the markup. Plus, they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. With thousands of 4.5 to 5-star ratings across their entire product line, I'd say that many of their customers agree with their high quality standards. Personally, I got a couple of clothing items and jewelry from Quince. I got these beautiful gold vermeil dangle hoop earrings, which I have just fallen in love with. These are my new go-to earrings that I wear almost every day to jazz up almost every outfit. I also got these super comfy black joggers. I wear these to work out, or just to lounge around in the house. And let me tell you, they're so darn comfortable. I actually have this same pair in gray because they're so comfortable that I find myself wanting to wear them constantly. So I just got the same pair, but in different colors. And lastly, I got these black high-waisted jeans, which have become yet another staple. They're also so comfortable and pair so well with any everyday look. If you can't tell, I'm a girl who likes to be comfy and wear pretty much the same things all the time because I don't like to put a ton of thought into my outfits. So I need staples that I can rely on so I can just throw something on and go. And let me tell you, Quince has got me covered in that department. So elevate your essentials with Quince and discover new limited edition seasonal styles and colors. Go to quince.com/RachelShannon for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada as well. Don't keep settling for stuff that doesn't last. Go to quince.com/RachelShannon for free shipping and 365-day returns. Thank you so much to Quince for partnering with me on today's video. Lisa Snyder is a mother of 3 children, then 17-year-old Owen, 8-year-old Connor, and 4-year-old Brinley. The biological father of the children is not publicly known as he was not involved in their lives at the time. The family of 4 were living together in a home in Albany Township, Pennsylvania, a very small town with just over 1,600 people, located about 75 miles northwest of Philadelphia. 8-year-old Connor was a 3rd grader at Greenwich Elementary School. He was known as a happy, cheerful student who loved school, riding the bus, and being around his friends. He loved building forts and playing video games, and was known to be especially close with his siblings. He would always get so excited when his older brother Owen would get home from his after-school job because that meant it was time to play video games together on his Xbox. But Connor was also close with his little sister Brinley as well. He was always playing with her, joining in on whatever she was doing. 4-year-old Brinley was in her 2nd year of pre-K. She was known to love dressing up and watching the movie Frozen, with her absolute favorite characters being Anna and Elsa. The case starts on September 23rd, 2019. According to Lisa, the children woke up at around 6:40 a.m. that morning, but remained in their rooms until around 7:30 a.m. At that time, Lisa told the kids to start getting ready for school. By 8:30 a.m., the school bus arrived and Connor got on as normal. From there, Lisa dropped Brinley off at pre-K before she went about her day. She went to Walmart where she picked up some groceries and also grabbed a 25-foot dog leash so they could tie the dog in the front yard to roam around. She had actually placed an order online for the dog leash the prior day, so she was able to just pick it up in store. When she got home, she continued on with her routine tasks. She cleaned, did the laundry, etc. By 1:30 p.m., Lisa left home to pick Brinley up from school since she got off at 2. A little under 2 hours later, Connor then took the school bus back home, arriving by 3:45 p.m. According to footage from the bus, Connor appeared in good spirits. He got off the bus as normal and ran right up to his house. Lisa said that when he came inside, he wanted to play on his iPad but changed his mind. He actually wanted to play on his laptop but couldn't find the charger, so he wasn't able to do that either. So he ended up asking his little sister if she wanted to go down into the basement to build a fort. According to Lisa, Connor loved building forts. It was kind of his thing. And the children would always play in the basement. That wasn't anything out of the ordinary for them. Connor asked if he could take the kitchen chairs down into the basement to build his fort, and Lisa said sure, but he could only take them down if he brought them down and back up by himself. So that's what he did. Lisa listened as Connor took the chairs downstairs one at a time. This took a while because they were heavy chairs. She heard the thump of the chair on each step before landing in the basement. Connor would then run back up, grabbed a sip of water, and then would carry down the next chair. As Connor was doing that, Lisa had been folding laundry in the nearby bedroom. When she finished laundry, she put the folded clothes on the table for the boys to eventually bring to their rooms and put away by themselves. She then went outside for a cigarette and let the dog out. Lisa said that she usually stays outside for 2 to 3 minutes, but on this day, she lost track of time because she was throwing around the toy for the dog. So it was around 10 minutes before she came inside to check on the kids and see what they wanted for dinner. But right away, when she came inside, she knew that something was wrong. She yelled to the kids, asking if they wanted Chef Boyardee or a frozen pizza for dinner, but she got no response. So she went downstairs into the basement to check on them, and that is when her heart stopped. By 4:30 p.m., 911 received a call from Lisa, who reported that she had just found her 2 young children, 8-year-old Connor and 4-year-old Brinley, unresponsive, hanging from a dog lead in the basement of their home. First responders were dispatched immediately, arriving to the home about 6 minutes later. When paramedics entered the basement, they were met with a horrifying sight. They saw the 2 children hanging about 3 feet apart from one another from a single wired cable dog lead with vinyl coating. There were snap hooks on either end, which had been wrapped around the main support beam in the basement at least 8 times, and then the end of each wire had been wrapped around each of their necks. Near their hanging bodies, there were 2 wooden kitchen chairs knocked over on their sides. The children were immediately removed from their noose and life-saving efforts were attempted. At the time, both children were in states of full cardiac arrest, though they were both resuscitated before they were airlifted to the Lee Valley Hospital. There, they were placed on life support while hospital staff tried absolutely everything in their power to keep them alive. However, by that point, it had already been too late. 3 days later, on September 26th, they were both removed from life support. Both 8-year-old Connor and 4-year-old Brinley died from their injuries within minutes of one another. Now, back at the scene after the bodies were discovered, of course, Lisa Snyder was immediately interviewed by detectives to figure out what exactly was going on here. Lisa ended up telling detectives that Connor was actually being bullied at school and was starting to suffer from severe depression because of it. He told her on multiple occasions that he wanted to die. She said that she didn't know much about what exactly he was being bullied about because he wouldn't say much more than that. Connor knew that if he told his mom too much, that she would call the school, and maybe that would just make things worse for him. But Lisa said that Connor was overweight, he had a speech delay, and needed some extra help in school. He was a bit slower to learn, so kids made fun of him for a myriad of reasons. One of the biggest issues, though, was that kids were calling him fat. In fact, Connor had lost about 25 pounds since school started because he was starving himself. He told his mom that he hates school. He never wants to talk about school, and she knew that the kids at school weren't being nice to him. This had been a problem since the first grade. Since then, he just comes home from school angry all the time. Lisa went on to say that just last week, she had a sit down with Connor and told him that if he ever felt like hurting himself, to please come to her. He expressed that he did want to hurt himself, but was scared to go by himself, so that's why he hasn't yet. Due to all of this, Lisa felt that Connor must have taken his own life by hanging himself with the dog leash, but he was scared to do it alone, so that's why he took Brinley with him, so they could go together. She told officers everything I just told you about what happened that day. The kids went to school as normal. She went to the store. She got groceries in the dog lead before coming back home. She picked Brinley up from pre-K before Connor was dropped off from the bus. She said that nothing about how Connor was acting was out of the normal. She didn't notice anything off about his demeanor. Again, she said that him wanting to build a fort in the basement was completely normal for him. Him wanting to bring the chairs downstairs, that was normal. She did mention that Connor asked to use the dog leash, and she didn't know what he could possibly want it for, but she agreed because she figured it was just part of the fort building. Of course, she now knows that she was wrong, and she regrets letting him use it, but at the time, there's no way she could have known. Lisa said again that she was only outside with the dog for about 10 minutes before she came in and found her children hanging from the support beam in the basement. When she found them, she, of course, tried to get them down right away. But she said that when her anxiety spikes, she sweats profusely. So when she tried lifting Brinley up, who weighed about 40 pounds, she couldn't get the latch off. She also tried to lift Connor, who weighed over 100 pounds, but wasn't able to. She was just so sweaty to do anything about it, so she ran back upstairs and called 911. She then waited upstairs while her children hung in the basement until help arrived. She made no further efforts to get either of them down. So, based on the story they were getting from Lisa, it appears that 8-year-old Connor was depressed from being relentlessly bullied at school. He had talked about taking his life for years, but was afraid to do it alone. Finally, though, on this fateful day, Connor decided to follow through with his plans. He took his own life and the life of his sister by hanging from that dog leash. That way, he wouldn't have to die alone.
Well, the 911 tapes show the mother, Lisa Snyder, disclosing to a dispatcher her fear that her 8-year-old son had killed himself and his younger sister as well, adding still more mystery to this grisly case. No trespassing signs are posted on the lawn of Lisa Snyder's Albany Township home. There was no sign Thursday of the 36-year-old mother of 4-year-old Brinley and her brother, 8-year-old Connor, found hanging in their basement on September 23rd.
Cardiac arrest, pediatrics.
But now, recordings of the Berks County 911 dispatchers are adding more mystery to the case. According to search warrants, the children were found by their mother hanging 3 feet apart by a single wire with plastic coating.
Both children are hanging in the basement.
The dispatcher alerts first responders to what they'll find and then tells them what Lisa Snyder said about her 8-year-old son.
She mentioned that the 8-year-old has been bullied and has made threats of doing this, but didn't want to go alone. It sounds like he may be the aggressor.
From the jump, though, this story just did not sit right with investigators. The biggest red flag right off the bat was the fact that Lisa apparently found her children hanging in the basement, tried one time to get them down, then just went upstairs and called 911 and never bothered to go back to her children. She just left them there and made no further attempt to get them down, all because she was just too sweaty. She could have gone down there, called 911, and had the phone on speaker and at least held Brinley up to take the pressure off of her neck while she waited. She didn't even have to get the clasp off. She at least could have held her up to get the pressure off of her neck. She could have tried to stack the chairs to, put Connor on there to help her with the weight. She could have done a lot of other things that could have helped her get the pressure off of their neck, but she didn't do any of that. She said she was just so sweaty that she couldn't be bothered to do anything. She didn't even go back down in the basement with her children to try to do anything, to even, try to comfort them, to be with them in their final moments. She waited upstairs for first responders to arrive. So just based on this alone, they began their investigation and they felt that this whole story, there was just something off about the whole thing. They first questioned Lisa's older son, Owen, who again was around 17 years old at the time. Thankfully, he wasn't home when this all took place, but I can't even imagine how devastated he must have been when the news was broke to him. He ended up being questioned a few times, and through those interviews, he told investigators that he had no idea why the children were found in the basement. It was actually not normal for them to want to play down there. They'd normally go to Connor's room to play, or they'd build forts in the living room with couch cushions and blankets. Connor and Brinley were actually scared of the basement and hated going down there. The only time they played in the basement was years ago when they rode scooters down there. I believe it was around Christmas and they had just gotten the scooters, so they couldn't ride them outside, so they went downstairs and rode them around down there. So already he was contradicting Lisa's earlier statement when she said that it was normal for Connor to play in the basement. So that's why she thought nothing of it. But again, it was not normal for him to go down there, according to his brother. Owen went on to say that he also didn't know anything about Connor being bullied at school. Owen said that Connor was always a very happy-go-lucky kid who was always playing with his friends and was excited to go to school each and every day. Owen said that his mom did tell him that Connor was dealing with depression, but he was really surprised because he never got any indication that Connor was struggling. When he asked him about it, Connor seemed genuinely confused and said nothing about being bullied or wanting to hurt himself. Owen said that he had a very close relationship with Connor and Brinley because he was the one who would often take care of them if their mother wouldn't or couldn't. So if he was struggling, he was confident that he would have told him. If anything, he probably would have told Owen before he told his mom because they were that close. In fact, the only person in that family that he knew of having mental health problems was his mother, Lisa. He said that he didn't know a ton about her struggles, but he did know that back in 2014, Connor was temporarily removed from her care because she admitted to having thoughts of hurting him. He doesn't know much more about that, but we will discuss it more in just a minute. After hearing from Owen, investigators then spoke to Lisa's cousin and closest friend, Jessica. Jessica explained that she and Lisa were like sisters and she loved Connor like a son. She described Lisa as a mom who tried her best but did struggle at times. Jessica said that on September 16th, about a week before the deaths, she had gotten a text from Lisa saying that Connor is suicidal because the kids are bullying him. She said that she ended up picking him up from school that day and he actually seemed totally fine. She saw him sitting and laughing with friends when she got there, and throughout her time with him that day, he never indicated wanting to hurt himself or having any problems with bullies at school. Of course, it's totally possible that Connor was just having a good day, or maybe he didn't feel safe telling Jessica his issues. Those on the outside can't always see when someone is struggling, and just because someone feels bad on the inside doesn't mean that they can't put on a front. Sometimes you'll see someone laughing with their friends, but on the inside they feel terrible and get this feeling that the people that they're laughing with don't actually like them. There's a lot that goes into it, and just because you see someone looking happy doesn't mean that they are. But Jessica also mentioned that just 3 weeks before that, Lisa confided in her that she was depressed and could barely get out of bed. She even said that she no longer cared about her kids. According to Jessica, this wasn't the first time that Lisa has dealt with this severe of depression. She has had multiple bouts of depression where she refused to get out of bed, would say that she didn't want to be a mother anymore. When Owen was a baby, Lisa confided in Jessica that she had thoughts of killing herself and Owen after his father abandoned them. She went as far as saying that if she ever went through with it, she would put Owen in the car and drive into a lake with them. At that time, I believe Owen was temporarily removed from her care while she got mental health help. Then, as I mentioned before, in 2014, Connor was removed from Lisa's care. According to Jessica, Lisa again was having thoughts of harming him. This included her saying that she wanted to put bottle caps and cords in then 2-year-old Connor's bed in hopes that he would choke and die in his sleep. It seems like throughout this time, she did get help and was able to pick herself back up, but the depression always crept back into her life. So again, we have another witness who said that Connor didn't seem to have mental health struggles, but Lisa, in fact, did. And I do want to know that Jessica was someone that was in Connor's life for his entire life. She was a very close family member. Connor almost saw her as a mother figure. So she believes that if he was struggling, then he could have confided in her. Again, it's possible that he didn't, but it seems likely that he might have. The next witness investigators spoke to was Connor's occupational therapist. A pediatric occupational therapist can work with children on improving all sorts of areas associated with everyday life. This includes addressing fine motor skills like handwriting, grasping, and tying shoes, sensory processing issues like managing sensitivities to touch, sound, and light. They can help improve overall coordination and motor planning, promote social skills, and help with tasks like eating, dressing, and bathing. An OT can help children with all sorts of abilities, from low-functioning disabilities to a typically developing child who just needs help managing, let's say, emotional regulation. Since I work with children who have disabilities in my job in healthcare, I know a lot of pediatric OTs, and let me tell you, they are a gift from God. They are truly incredible people and deal with some of the most difficult cases. So next time you interact with one, or if your child sees one, make sure to give them an extra thank you for what they do. So now back to Connor's OT. She had worked with him at school for the past 2 years. He was receiving treatment due to difficulty with visual motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and dexterity. He had trouble with fine motor skills, specifically with anything that involved using his finger and thumb to clasp things together. As such, the OT was shown a replica of the dog leash that he supposedly used in the hanging and was asked if he would have been able to operate the clasp. She said that it is possible, but it would have been very difficult for him. She was also shown a photo of the dog leash wrapped around the beam in the basement. Like I said, it was wrapped around the beam about 8 times, and it was done in a way that made it so both sides hanging down were about equal in length. She was asked if he would have been able to do that all while standing on a chair and reaching up. Now, his OT explained that Connor had trouble with coordination and balance. He was often seen stumbling around and bumping into things in the classroom. He lacked strength and had trouble with motor planning, which essentially means that, he had trouble with forming a motor plan for a more complex task, such as kicking a ball. Things like that were very hard for him. Most kids would easily be able to just, swing back and kick their leg, but for him, he just had to take more time to think it through, formulate the motor sequence, and try multiple times before he got it right. That's just an example to demonstrate what I mean when she says he had trouble with motor planning. I don't know if he actually had trouble with kicking. That's just something that's common in children with trouble motor planning. But again, that's just to demonstrate what I mean by motor planning. Either way, due to all of these difficulties, Connor took about twice as long as his peers to complete most motor tasks. So it would have taken him a long time to even just find the middle of the dog lead. Then he had to stand on a chair and reach above his head to hang it. Then he had to wrap it around several times, all while keeping careful track of the length of the rope to ensure it was equal on both sides, continuing to maintain his balance on the chair and stretch his arm overhead, all while doing that. For any of you parents out there with clumsy kids who have trouble with motor skills, just ask them to stand on their toes and reach above their head. You'll see very quickly how hard that can be for a lot of kids. So for Connor to have done all of that, it would have taken him a substantial amount of time, and I imagine he would have fallen over a couple times. Maybe Lisa would have heard him banging around down there. He probably would have tipped over the chair. And I mean, if I'm being honest, if I'm wrapping a rope around something, I even have trouble keeping track of both ends to make sure it's equal on both sides. I can't think of a specific example, but I know that if I'm like trying to tie something and make sure it's equal on both ends, that's kind of hard for me to visualize. So for an 8-year-old who already has trouble with motor planning and things like that, I can imagine it would have taken him, first of all, a long time, probably a lot of trial and error. Like I said, Lisa claimed that she was only outside for about 10 minutes while Connor was downstairs. He would have had to do all of that, convince his sister to go downstairs with him, convince her to go along with his whole plan, hang his sister, and then himself for long enough to go unresponsive, which isn't that long, but to complete all of that for any child, let alone someone with Connor's physical difficulties, that would have been a very difficult thing to accomplish in such a short amount of time. But again, for a kid with motor planning, balance, and coordination issues, it's just not very likely in the slightest. Then, of course, after speaking with the OT, officers questioned multiple others who worked with Connor at the school, including his teachers, peers, and school officials. None of them, including his OT, ever heard anything from Connor about being bullied or depressed or sad or suicidal. Again, this can be explained away as a kid wanting to seem normal at school and teachers missing warning signs. But as someone who works with kids, and again, I know tons of OTs, and one of their main jobs is to work with their emotional regulation. I just feel like if she were seeing him one-on-one on almost a weekly basis for 2 years, that's enough time to build a very close rapport with a kid. I just feel like in that time, it would have been brought up. And I just feel like someone who is trained in helping children with emotional regulation, they're trained to get those things out of a kid. They're trained to ask the right question. I just feel like they would have caught it by that point. So at this point, nobody else in Connor's life has claimed to have heard him say anything about being bullied or being depressed or suicidal in any way except for Lisa. From there, officers also obtained a warrant to search the home. This allowed them to search the home as well as seize multiple items from the home. This included that dog cable, the 2 wooden kitchen chairs, a cell phone that was recovered from an entryway table in the home, which belonged to Lisa, an Xbox console, 2 iPads that belonged to the children, and a laptop. However, in one of their interviews with Owen, investigators were surprised to learn that the cell phone they seized was not the only one Lisa had. In total, Owen knew of 3 different phones in her possession. So over the course of the next few months, officers ended up executing several more search warrants, and they ended up seizing a total of 5 cell phones. Of course, all the phones were examined, and what they found on them was disturbing. Actually, that's not even a close to a strong enough word to describe what they found. It was repulsive, deplorable. All the words in the world could not describe the disgust I felt reading what Lisa was doing. So the first cell phone is associated with a phone number that ends in 8419. They found that the first activity on this phone was after September 23rd. However, that same phone number was listed on an online Walmart order that Lisa placed on September 22nd. It was for that 25-foot dog lead. So this led detectives to believe that there was another phone connected to the 8419 number, but they had not been able to recover it. It was not one of those 5 phones that they had recovered. There was apparently this 6th phone that they couldn't find. They asked Lisa about this mystery phone, and she said that she actually did have another phone, but she lost it. Investigators believe that this was the phone used to place the order for the dog lead. I'm guessing that Lisa somehow hid this phone well enough that investigators couldn't find it in hopes that they maybe wouldn't discover the purchase of the dog lead. Maybe she thought that they also wouldn't see the absolutely sick things she was up to. This was probably the phone she used for everything I'm about to tell you, not realizing that when you're messaging using Google, placing orders, everything is connected to your Gmail account. So even though they didn't have that physical phone, they were able to uncover a lot. So now back to what they found. Again, the order for the dog cable was placed the day before the hanging and picked up the day of. According to the packaging for the dog cable, it was for extra large dogs and can hold a capacity of up to 250 pounds. This, again, was ordered just a day before Connor and Brinley's death and was picked up the morning of. The dog they had is a pit bull who weighs under 50 pounds and would not need to have such a heavy-duty lead for her size. I mean, you could say that it's good to have something more than what you actually need, but if it's too heavy for the dog, it's going to be inconvenient. She's not going to be able to pull it around very well. It should have been one that was more appropriate for her size. So it's not known why she would have picked up that one for her dog unless she actually needed it for other reasons in which she might have needed a heavier duty lead. Okay, so now we get to the part where what they found on her phone is so appalling, I don't even want to say it out loud. I actually debated even reading these messages to you guys, but I feel like just to get the full gravity of what she was doing, you have to hear it and I have to say it. Unfortunately, I don't think you're ready for this because it is so out of left field. Oh my God. I will warn you that it does involve animal abuse and it's just so uncomfortable to even say. So if that's something you can't stand to hear about, please skip forward about 3 to 4 minutes. So investigators uncovered Facebook messages that Lisa sent to an unknown individual on September 3rd, 2019. The first message is at 3:03 a.m. and it's a picture which depicts Lisa forcing her dog to perform sexual acts on her. The message accompanying the image says, "He's eating my pussy, daddy." 2 minutes later, she messages again saying he keeps moving every time the flash goes off. Hours later, that same day, by 11:28 a.m., Lisa sends another photo of the dog licking her vagina. That same night, by 9 p.m., she sends another message which says, "He did good up until he started biting my labia." I think she meant labia. The Facebook messages stop for a few days until they start again on September 15th at 11:29 p.m. when she says, "Sorry, ... kid problems." She sends another message at 11:30 saying, "Major kid problems." 2 days later on September 17th at around 7:21 a.m., Lisa messages the same person saying, "Things are bad, bullying issues, and he's telling me he wants to die. He's 8, lost 25 pounds in the first 3 weeks of school. Breaks my heart. I just want to cry." But later that same morning, her mood does a complete 180 and she starts sending dirty messages again. At 11:14 a.m., she says, "Oh, daddy, I just took some good pics for you." She then apparently waits until 11:10 p.m. the following day, September 17th, to send the photos, either that or she sent them and police just weren't able to recover them. One photo shows the dog lying on his back with what looks like a female's hand on his penis. The next photo shows him licking her vagina again, and the third photo shows Lisa wearing a ball gag in her mouth while wearing black lingerie, a nipple clip, and holding another cell phone in her other hand. Minutes later, at 11:27 p.m., she sent another message. He actually went for it all on his own this time. Was laying in bed in my underwear and he started licking, so I went with it. She sent another message at 9:24 p.m. the following day, September 19th, saying, "Hopefully you'll see Sunday." 1 minute later, she says in another message, "But I just found out redacted does work and is an all-day job. So gonna try option B, which is my mom, so don't get your hopes up. She's a bitch when it comes to babysitting." After that, there are no further Facebook messages listed in that report. Again, we don't know who she was sending these messages to. We also don't know what he was responding back. We also don't know if these are all the messages. I'm guessing they're not. But man, he should be exposed too. He's also a sick freak who should be arrested for this shit. But as far as I know, nothing has happened to this guy. In addition to those messages, they also found some Google searches from an account associated with Lisa's Gmail. They are as follows. On September 17th at 10:21 p.m., she searches carbon monoxide in car, how long to die. September 20th at 6:58 p.m., almost got away with it. And I almost got away with it, best episodes. September 22nd at 11:19 a.m., hanging yourself. From that search, she then visited a website titled Short Drop/Simple Suspension, Lost All Hope. Upon further inspection, detectives learned that this was a website which describes an effective way of hanging someone using a short drop or simple suspension method. The following day, September 23rd at 11:27 a.m., so while all 3 children were at school and after Lisa picked up the dog lead from Walmart, she Googled, "Do hybrid car produce carbon monoxide?" A minute later, she searches, "Does a hybrid car produce carbon monoxide while idling?" So, I know we just uncovered a lot. From all of this, we see that Lisa was a sick freak who was sexually abusing her dog. This was something that she did while the kids were at school and while talking to someone else about it. I'm guessing it's someone that she was seeing at the time. But at the same time, she was annoyed with her kids, and it seemed like she felt like they were getting in the way of her being able to do all these sexual things in person with that dude, hence her saying that she had kid problems and calling her mom a bitch for never babysitting them. All the while, she was researching methods of suicide. We also heard from witnesses who said that she was struggling with her mental health, with one friend even saying that she was tired of being a mom. She said that 3 weeks before her children died. Her doing all of that at the same time leads me to believe that she was, in fact, tired of having kids and just wanted to do whatever she wanted without worrying about them getting in the way. She seemingly already had this idea in her head to kill them and make it look like a suicide, because we don't see any messages of her bringing up this whole, Connor being depressed idea until like a couple weeks before this happened. And then obviously, again, the Google searches, she needed to find the right way to go about it. It can be argued that if she was depressed, the Google searches could be researching ways to kill herself and not her kids. But if that were true, then why did she hide the phone she allegedly used to place the order for the dog lead? Why would she want to hide that if she truly just purchased it for its intended purpose? Now, I want to note that, like I said earlier, investigators also examined items known to be used by the children. That included their laptop, 2 iPads, and an Xbox. The Xbox was a particular interest to investigators since this is what Connor spent the most time on, playing games, messaging, and accessing online websites. After examining all these items, though, they found absolutely no sign of Connor expressing being suicidal or depressed. No concerning internet searches, messages, or anything of the sort. Literally, everything pointed towards Connor being a happy, healthy, social little boy. Now, for the months that followed the deaths of Brinley and Connor, those around the family had no reason to suspect that this was anything other than what Lisa was telling them. A devastating case of a little boy being so depressed that he takes his own life, and in doing so, convinces his little sister to join him. The family and the community rallied behind Lisa, showing her support in any way they could during this difficult time of mourning. However, as we know, behind the scenes, investigators were digging up all this dirt on Lisa, all of which pointed to a much more sinister story. Lisa killed her kids and tried covering it up. She blamed her own son for not just taking his own life, but for taking the life of his little sister too. A truly monstrous, evil thing to do. It took a few months, but by December of 2019, Lisa Snyder was finally arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder, child endangerment, tampering with physical evidence, bestiality, and cruelty to an animal in relation to those photos with her dog, which I am very glad to see these investigators took that seriously as well. From there, the case made its way through the court system very slowly. Lisa tried making arguments regarding her mental health, though she was found competent to stand trial. She also tried formulating a plea deal, saying that she will plead no contest to 2 counts of murder, though the prosecution declined this, saying that it didn't serve the interests of justice. Thank God. Finally, though, by September of 2024, 5 years after the deaths of 8-year-old Connor and 4-year-old Brinley, the trial began. Lisa was originally up for the death penalty if convicted, but she opted for a bench trial, which made it so the death penalty was no longer an option. A bench trial means that there will be no jury. The case will be presented to a judge who will then decide if she's guilty and determine a sentence from there. In the trial, the prosecution discussed everything that I've told you up to this point. They argued that Lisa had a history of mental health issues, which resulted in her wanting to hurt her children. When Owen was a baby, he was taken away due to the thoughts of her wanting to harm him. The same thing happened when Connor was a baby. As recently as 3 weeks before the deaths, she even confided in her best friend that she was sick of being a mom and did not care about her children. Now, she did start telling others that Connor was struggling with depression and thoughts of suicide, but that only began a few weeks before their deaths. She made it seem to investigators that he had been struggling for years. If that were the case, why did she only start telling people around the same time that she started to complain about not wanting to be a mom anymore? They talked about those disgusting Facebook messages, which obviously highlight that she is a sexual deviant. She abuses her dog, and she obviously has some sort of mental health issue. But this also shows that she was so engrossed in these behaviors and so sick of being a mom that she felt that her kids were getting in the way, and she wanted to be done dealing with it. She wanted to be free to do whatever she wanted with her life and not worry about her kids being there. They talked about how she purchased the dog lead just a day before their deaths. They also discussed Connor's physical limitations and how it was not likely that he would have been able to tie up that leash to suspend himself and his sister from the support beam, let alone in that short window of time. Many people testified at trial, all of whom described Connor as being a happy-go-lucky kid who was not struggling with depression. Even Owen, his older brother, testified that he was extremely close with his brother, and he would have known. He's confident in that. If Connor felt safe enough telling his mom about his mental health, he absolutely would have told Owen. Owen also explained that when his mom would go through these severe bouts of depression where she, wouldn't get up off the couch and wouldn't get out of bed, he would be responsible for taking care of Connor and Brinley. So he was almost like a father figure to them. So again, he absolutely would have confided in Owen if he was depressed or suicidal. Owen did not believe for 1 second that Connor took his own life, and when testifying, he even refused to call Lisa mom, saying that he lost his mom when he lost his brother and sister. Everything pointed to Lisa being responsible for taking the lives of her 2 young children. On the other hand, the defense took a 2-pronged approach. They first argued that Lisa was not responsible for the deaths of her children. From day one, since the moment she placed that 911 call, she maintained the same story. 8-year-old Connor was depressed and took his life and brought his sister with him. They then argued that even if Lisa did kill her kids, it was because she was legally insane and was unable to tell right from wrong at the time of the murders. The defense pointed out how the prosecution's entire argument was based purely on speculation, not fact. There was absolutely no physical evidence to support their claims. No DNA on the dog lead, no fingerprints, no hair evidence, or anything to prove that Lisa hung her children. There were also no defensive wounds on the children, which you'd expect to find in any homicide case. They said that the prosecution's main evidence was the assumption that Connor couldn't be responsible due to his physical limitations. However, that's purely speculation and not fact. There is no way to prove that Connor couldn't have carried out the physical tasks required for the hangings. They then talked about the Google searches and argued that they weren't searching for ways to kill her kids. Lisa was proven to have her own mental health struggles, and the Google searches prove that she was searching for ways to kill herself, not her children. The defense did have one witness to take the stand who said that she did think Connor was suicidal. His grandmother and Lisa's mother, Eileen, claimed that Connor confided in her just day before the hangings that he was suicidal. He told his grandmother, "I don't want to live in this world anymore." She also claimed that Connor was a strong boy who could do front flips on the trampoline, hop on a pogo stick, and drive a four-wheeler. She believed he would have been able to hang himself. However, it was found that Eileen had actually had a history of brain cancer and had a tumor removed about 20 years prior. Since then, she admits that she has had serious memory issues and confusion. It was also shown that Eileen had spoken to Lisa many times in the days and weeks leading to the trial, almost every single day, and they discussed at length the police reports, what witnesses were saying, and what evidence was going to be presented. So who knows just how accurate her testimony was given these considerations. The defense also brought forward a psychiatrist who argued that even if Lisa did kill her kids, she did not inform the intent to kill them because she was in a psychotic state. They talked about how she had experienced her own abuse as a child and had experienced years upon years of mental health issues, all of which contributed to her snapping and going into a psychotic state. However, the prosecution had their own psychiatrist who claimed that nothing in his reports indicated that Lisa didn't know right from wrong. Yes, she had a history of anxiety and depression, but he did not think she was psychotic at the time of the deaths. In the end, the defense argued that the prosecution's entire case was based on guesswork and not actual evidence, and said that she was also mentally ill at the time of the deaths. Therefore, there is no way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Lisa murdered her two children. After both sides made their closing arguments, it was time for the judge to review the details of the case and come to a decision. She spent about an hour reviewing the evidence before coming to her decision. In the end, the judge found that now 41-year-old Lisa Snyder is in fact guilty of murdering her two young children, Connor and Brinley. She was convicted on all charges. Her sentencing hearing was held about a week after that, where she was given a sentence of 2 life terms without the possibility of parole for the murders, plus an additional 8 to 17 years for her remaining charges.
41-year-old Lisa Snyder was convicted of first-degree murder, endangering the welfare of a child, and evidence tampering. 4-year-old Brinley and 8-year-old Connor were found hanging by a cable dog lead, which Snyder later admitted to buying in September of 2019. Police said Snyder's online searches included How to Kill Someone and episodes of a documentary crime series called I Almost Got Away with It.
And that is where this case ends. This case is one of the most disturbing cases that I've ever covered, which says a lot because I've talked about a lot of disturbing cases. Everything about this woman just disgusts me to my core. Not only did she murder her 2 young children, but she tried to blame her 8-year-old son for his own death and for his little sister's death. It doesn't get much worse than that. Then it comes out that she's sexually abusing her dog. Oh my God, I cannot even describe with words the disdain I have for this woman. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that she will spend the rest of her days behind bars. I'm glad that justice has been served for her 2 young children who will never get to live their lives. And I'm glad that their dog is safe. Owen had recently welcomed a baby of his own as the trial was happening, and he was devastated that his siblings will never get to be an aunt and an uncle. He has also suffered so much because of what his mother did, and I can't even imagine what it's like to have dealt with all of that. All I can do is hope that Owen and everyone else who knew Lisa and the family are able to heal and find peace despite the horrors they have faced. I hope that Connor and Brinley can be remembered for the adorable, sweet children they were, and not the way his own mother is trying to tarnish his memory. But that is where I'm going to end today's video, and now I want to hear what you all think. Why do you think Lisa did this? How could she blame her own son for this? And what do you think of those disgusting messages they found on her Facebook? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is also listed down below. With that, hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.